Hello, friends. Welcome to the About to Break podcast. This is the show where we talk to artists and entertainers about trying to break into the industry before it breaks them. You know, this week on the show is another past guest and great friend of the show and personal, really, really good best buddy of mine, Mr. Eddie Furth. You know, a couple years ago, we sat down and we talked on this show about his hopes and his dreams about coming to LA, about writing this show that he was doing in the back of a comic book store at the time called Historical Roast. And basically, it's a show where they roast dead people. They roast historic figures, and as a way of honoring them in a very fun and lighthearted way, but also a way of teaching, as they say it, teaching history a lesson. So I'm so stoked because way back then, one of the things that he said is, he's like, I think this thing could be a Netflix show. I really do. Well, guess what, folks? Today it is. They just released Historical Roast, hosted on the TV there with Jeff Ross. It's a 6-part Netflix show. It is on right now. You can go binge it. But I sat down again, a little update with my buddy Eddie Furth to talk about his experience. Here we go. Let's get into it. Enjoy this episode of the About to Break podcast with Mr. Eddie Furth.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Dude, this is you right here. You can do your volume.
This is perfect.
This is more or less, whatever you want.
This is perfect. This is good.
What do we?
Can I need to say this right off the bat. I am, because this is the hardest part to admit even to myself right now.
Okay.
Like you've been before, exhausted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
I think I've done a podcast a day for nearly 2 weeks. Like non-stop in the best of ways. Like I'm so excited. I'm insanely energized by it.
Right.
Similar to when we would talk during pre-production and when we were writing the show. And I was like, look, I'm overdrawn on what I'm used to doing, but I also couldn't sleep. I was very incredibly energized.
Yeah.
But also like, oh my goodness, like the pace that we've cut to get to this spot, especially in the last month, kind of everything changed when they announced the release date, because that's when it became so real for everybody that there was this definitive, like, it's Memorial Day, and then marketing started and everyone got on board, and it's just been this wonderful roller coaster where we did every podcast, every show, every appearance, every possible way to talk about it.
But you went because you went from, we're going to do it. Yeah, it's coming. It's going to happen. We're going to get a deal. Like that was months and months and months and months and months of thinking it was going to happen. And then once it got locked down, it was like just going crazy, like nonstop.
I remember getting, so the pitch process took some time and the deals getting worked out. There was always implication of things were moving, but the actual movement, very much like this business, was a hurry up and wait kind of like situation where in August we got an email that said we signed the deal on a Thursday. Yeah. On Monday, we got an email saying only half the team thinks the deal is done. The other half says it doesn't. And I remember I got that email and I simply replied, well, we already drank like the deal happened. So we're going to just continue to, like I already had the Jameson. We can't go back on that one.
I can't give that back.
And then it was about a week later when I got a text message from Jeff saying, come to the office. And it was literally my first writing session. And from that day on, it was the beginning of September. And through the end of shooting, we didn't stop. And then there was just a lull because of the holidays and post-production. And then sometime, about a month or two ago, it just picked right back up. And we got to move. Look, this period, especially this month, I'll say, basically the month of May has been nice because, for lack of a better term, I got a chance to be an executive producer again.
Right.
And after the show was shot, I didn't really have the role in the same way. I didn't get to do the job that I loved doing and I wanted to do so much. But then this month it picked right back up. And even through right now, like, we can say that doing a lot of podcasts and a lot of shows and making the appearances certainly takes a mental and physical toll. You know, Ryan and I had to prep for a roast battle.
Right.
You want to talk about one of the most incredibly fun and exciting, but also stressful. You're walking into a different show.
Right. It's like someone else's house.
And the expectation and the excitement, because we were with friends in that instance. You know, it's no secret that roast battle and historical roast have shared performers.
Right. Yeah.
But then half of our writing staff was also roast battle people, like the same crew of our friends, and they showed up in force to watch us roast battle. And so you're like, I gotta.
And then you're like, this has to go good.
It had, and it did,
Yeah.
and it did. But it's just, it was nice this month. I thought about this before coming over here, like. I got a chance to be the executive producer of the show again.
Yeah.
Which is a role that I have absolutely, it's the role of a lifetime. I've had so much fun with this show from beginning to end.
Well, and I want to kind of go back just a little bit because friends that have heard you on the podcast before, by doing this episode now, you're the most reoccurring guest on this show, which is pretty exciting to me.
Thank you for always having me. This is an outlet. And in fact, to me today, is sort of the official podcast. To me, this is the real one. This is the real one to sit down and discuss the show.
Well, what's fun, man, is because, like, I mean, going back to our very first conversation, which I think is like episode 6 and episode 7 of this podcast.
And what are we on now?
This is episode 114.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, like, but going back, like, I went back just for fun, and because I knew we were going to be talking about the show coming out, and I recalled like some of our first conversation. I went back and listened to some of it, and realizing that, like, way back then, like over 2 years ago, when we sat down and talked about your show, at the time, I think you guys had signed with OBB as a to shop the show, to like pitch the show. But at the time you were doing your monthly shows and you didn't know it was going to be a TV show yet. And yet you knew it was going to be a TV show. And even back then you told me, you're like, this is going to be on Netflix. Like nobody else was saying that. Nobody
had we signed with Jeff at that point? Had he come on as
no, you hadn't signed with Jeff yet.
Wow.
Yeah. Like at the time, you didn't know that Jeff was going to be the host of the show on Netflix. And you didn't know that you had, like, there was no deal in the works. It was just, you knew in your gut, look, this show is good and it is quality, and it is a Netflix show, or it is a TV special. It is going to be a TV show. I was laughing thinking back to those conversations, because there's so much time that we spend as artists where we're dreaming and we're going like, yeah, what if this, what if that? But you, from the day that I met you, were like, boom, this is what we're doing and this is what it's going to be. And I just think it's freaking rad, dude, that here we are recording this. By the time we record this, by the time we release this, the show will have been out for 2 days on Netflix, 6 episodes. Executive producer, Eddie Furth. Like, submitted for Emmys.
That one, oh God, that one is one that. So we've talked about my belief, as I said in the house, my belief in the manifestation bullshit.
Yeah, I love the way that you phrased it.
Because it's several fold for me. One, I think there is an ethereal law of attraction idea that if you are going to go for something, you have to put it out there. You have to believe in it. There is an almost spiritual side of belief in one's self.
Right. Yeah.
I also think that any time I have personally experienced having a goal,
right,
the more specific it is, the better off I am, because it's very simple. All I need to do is then ask myself, does this service the overall goal?
Right. Yeah.
And anytime I have to come across a decision or a choice, or if I'm feeling, especially in this process, where there were certainly challenging moments in the process of making a television show, everything from selling it to executing it to how it's going to work when it is released, all I have to do is stop and remind myself, what's my overall goal?
Yeah.
And does this service it? And it gives me something to work towards. And every time something gets you off the rail, you're just like, well, where am I going?
Right.
You check your North Star, you get back on track, and you work towards it. I think there's both an ethereal, spiritual side to it, and a very practical, like Einstein said, that whatever we want to do, we just find that frequency and vibrate at that frequency.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
It's like with anything. It's like exercise or weight
Yeah.
loss. When you go like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, and you're really not just like, I'd like to lose 50 pounds, but when you go, my primary focus and goal and intention right now is to lose 50 pounds, then you filter everything through that process of, okay, here's the goal. I want to eat a cheeseburger too, but I don't want to eat a cheeseburger more than I want to lose 50 pounds. So I'm going to say no to that so I can do this. It's like we both love Born Standing Up. We love Steve Martin, and Steve Martin talks about in Born Standing Up, like the people that want to do this thing in entertainment, the ones that are doing it are the ones that wanted to do that more than anything else.
I have reiterated to people, the success of this show was also born on the back of doing this for free.
Yeah, lots more than for free, of investing your own money to do this.
I mean, even go back to just the inception of Ryan and I were interns with Sammy at the Nerd Melt Theater.
Yeah.
We were legitimately just volunteering time running a theater for other people's shows, which inspired the chain of events that led us to want to produce our own show.
Right.
And therefore then get a chance to invest within that show.
Right.
To get to the place where we set ourselves up for this kind of success. Like, this was born on the back of I would work at a theater for free just to be around stand-up comedy and comedians to work myself into the spot to get it.
Yep.
When you talk about manifestation, this is a story I don't think I've ever actually told you specifically.
Let's do it.
So I dropped out of college after my first semester.
Yeah.
I got really good grades except for one class, which I just never turned a paper in for because I knew I wasn't going to do it. My mother and I had a big sort of fight during winter break, and college just wasn't for me.
Okay.
I didn't like the structure of it. I was done with schooling in general. I don't fit in a schooling structure.
Yeah.
In the same way, no matter how intelligent I think I am or how much I am curious and crave to learn, I don't fit within the scope of here's a book, read the book, take a test, prove you did it, keep on going. It didn't. So it was decided I could drop out. Like my mom, she was like, well, why don't you just drop out then? Like, you don't have to go. I was like, I literally yelled. I was like, I didn't know I could do that. Like,
wait, that's an option?
That's essentially what it was to me was. And when I started on this journey of, I want to be a performer. I want to be in the entertainment business. I want to create.
Right.
Especially in Connecticut. And I'll say especially from my father, you'd get questions like, well, when would you give up and get a real job?
Yeah. What's the point?
Yeah,
like what's the point, but what is the age where you're like, this is when I need to settle down?
Yeah. What is it? Almost, if I were to look at it objectively, people almost asking me like, what do you need to get out of your system before you can just settle down and be okay with things?
Yeah.
And externally, what do you think I said? Eddie, when would you give up and get a real job? Never.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Internally, I had a very specific answer.
Yeah.
Internally, I was like 35. Mm-hmm. If I can't make it by the time I'm 35, then I would look at it.
Right.
And I celebrated my 35th birthday on April 15th of this year. Like the specifics of manifestation were that this was literally 6 weeks before this show came out. I hit the age where I had told myself, you have to do it by this point or you have to walk away. And by all measures, I did the thing that I had set out to do.
Was that something that you recalled like after the fact, or do you think that was something that was so in your mindset this whole time of like, I've got to keep grinding because 35's coming?
I have continuously thought back to the idea of maybe I should have said younger and I would have hit the mark.
Yeah, right.
I had selected 35 because it was far enough away and enough of an adult.
Yeah.
Right. Once you hit your 30s, you start to realize like, oh, I am the definition of a grown-up.
Yeah.
How close to a grown-up am I? And 35 was like, look, if you can't sort of, and this is insanely judgmental even of myself, but if I can't get my life in order by 35 in that field, I'm not going to go figure something else out. I look at it the other way. I had wanted to quote unquote make it before then. There was no extra pressure as I led up to it. Although I will tell you, once I moved to LA right before I was 30, and that kind of gave me the 5 years, which is no time at all. I was not on a good schedule if I had wanted to keep it in that vein, but I won't say that I sped things up, but I did feel a little internal pressure of like, you gotta figure out how to make this work. Like, be smart and be dedicated and be passionate at all times, but whatever it takes. I think my move to LA and what I went through in my first 2 years had far more to do with my commitment and passion to making sure this field was going to work for me. I think that was the sacrifice. I think that was the moment. I think that was more or less, but I will tell you, especially as it got closer, that I did feel the internal pressure I'd placed on myself as that age drew close. But I always had said, even in that, with what I had done, had the show not gotten picked up, by all accounts, I had still gotten where I was supposed to by 35.
Right.
Which was justification in my own head, but I also felt very honestly, like I looked at myself and I was like, look, the show doesn't get picked up, but you've done it at the Comedy Store and you work and you pay your bills as a performer and you've made these connections and you have these resources. You did it. I know internally I would have wanted more. Even now I want more than, and that's insane to say out loud, but I want more than we have right now.
Right.
You know, as great as the show
that's
is.
the question, man. I mean, like going back to our previous conversations on this show is that, you know, we had, I remember talking to you about like, okay, you moved here at the time it was like 3 years you were in LA, and within 3 years you had a show that was a regular show at Nerd Melt. You were working as an entertainer, you know, full time.
We were at the Comedy Store as well.
Yeah, I don't think you were at the Comedy Store yet.
Had we done? Here's the way to test it. Yeah. Had we done our first fictional roast yet?
Yes.
Because
was that the first one? Was that?
One of my favorite, you know, people always ask, what's your favorite show? It's next to impossible at near 70 live shows for me to tell you the one.
Right. Yeah.
But there was 1 month that was my favorite month of shows because we ran 3 roasts in 1 month. It was June, I want to say 3 years ago.
Okay.
But it was June. We roasted Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah.
We roasted Harry Potter for our first fictional roast. Yep. And we had our first show at the Comedy Store, and we roasted all the dead comedians.
That's right.
And that was a single month. It was our highest drawing month. It was 3 amazing shows we did. We literally showed the spectrum of what we could do with these shows.
Yeah.
In a single month. And that was... I will say that sometimes I take for granted the fact that we have a show that is in the Comedy Store once a month.
Right.
That's like huge. Alone. If that were it.
That's huge, man.
Yeah. I don't always stop to think about that, but the legacy of that place and the people it puts us in contact with.
Right.
The truth is, I don't know if this story plays out the same if we don't end up at the Comedy Store. So shout out to like Emily LaFord, who books us there, and Brian Moses, who created Roast Battle with Jeff Ross. Yep. Well, he created and then brought Jeff Ross in, but Brian Moses was a big connection for us to get us in. He's a good friend of mine and helped us get the first spot at the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
And I've said it to him as well. Their success paved the way for our success. But if we're not at the Comedy Store, you know, Jeremiah Watkins had pitched us to Jeff before we ever pitched us to Jeff.
Yeah.
And the fact that we were there and so many people from Roast Battle in the comedy community knew us helped solidify that relationship with Jeff and his faith in us.
And it's so fun to see too how like so many of these people, you know, the comedians that jumped on the show when you guys were first starting out, the people that helped get you into the store and all that stuff. I love that then you guys get the opportunity to do the Netflix show and you bring along so many of those friends with you. Like, you know what I mean? There's so many people that are a part of this project who were performing in the back of a comic book store with you. Mm-hmm. Like how cool was that when you...
There's a real conceit on my part. So we came up with an idea and we executed an idea.
Yeah.
However, the majority of the quote unquote work, like the real heavy lifting of the show, is done by a lot of other people. So for instance, we have a show coming up. This comes out on a Wednesday.
This will come out.
So in that vein, we have a show tonight. As you're listening to this, there's a show May 29th at 10:30 in the Belly Room.
Yep, at the Comedy Store.
I've booked all of the, you know, we as a team have booked all the acts. Yep. We've gotten them their costumes. We've organized and promoted the event. But the actual jokes are going to be written by other people. The execution of the actual show that people like is on the backs of hundreds of comedians who've come onto this show. We do not get a chance to make a Netflix series if we don't have legitimately hundreds of comedians come in and write sets. People that's why I will say to guys like Matt McCarthy and Jeremiah Watkins and Scout Durwood and Darian Sills Evans and our favorite people who repeat as regulars on the show every single time, Nate Craig, Jessica Michelle Singleton, Alex Hooper. I could go on, but these are the people who made the show and gave us the opportunity to get to that place. That's why at the premiere on Monday, I needed them all there. I was like, no, this is just as much yours. This is a celebration for all of us because we do not get a chance. Without them, it is simply a really good idea that sits on a shelf until you can get it to come alive.
Right.
But they made it come alive. So when someone else came along and watched it, when Jeff Ross came to our 3-year anniversary show and could see what it was, then it clicks. Then it all makes sense. It's time to move. Now we got to roll. So this is the live show is on the backs of countless friends and professionals that we worked with. And then, as you saw, when you shoot a television show, there's legitimately 100 people just working to make that happen. And you recognize the massive collaboration on this idea. And I can be nothing but appreciative and grateful for all of those people to help. Because the beautiful thing is, it isn't just ours anymore. You get to share that ownership with people who are super excited that their name is on an Emmy screener, or this is their first major project on television, or they get a chance to work with so-and-so. That was not a tough transition as it might have seemed to me at first, to be like, oh yeah, now this belongs to a lot of people.
Right.
It was it was basically the first or second day in the writer's room.
Yeah.
People were talking about this show in a way that only myself, Sammy, and Ryan had ever talked about it.
Right.
And there was that momentary hey, wait a minute, I talk about this show that way. And then I realized, oh no, you're emotionally invested. Now you're going to work really hard too. This is part yours. This is someone else's journey as well, where previously it had been a 3-person team.
Yeah.
And now we are, you count the comedians. I do count the comedians and people who worked on our live show and the tape and the filmed version. Hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people.
Yeah. Dude, it was so fun to get to go. You invited Katie and I. We get to go to be part of one of the tapings.
Mom and Ali.
Oh, it's so good.
They dressed you in costume.
Yeah, you show up and they've got a whole costume department, not just for the people that are performing on stage, but for the audience. What show has ever done that before? I've never seen that before.
I don't think somebody has costumed the entire
studio audience to be in period costume.
Huge shout out to Roger Forker. He's our costume designer. He was the first person I found out was getting submitted for an Emmy Award for Best Costumes, and his partner Erica. I don't have her last name on me, but Erica was a huge part of that and has been Erica Schwartz. Erica has been fantastic online, posting about what's been going on, and the two of them just crushed it. Nowhere else on television this year will you see an entire audience costumed in period pieces, and period costumes that range from Cleopatra to the Civil War to the Civil Rights era.
Yeah.
Roger just absolutely, and I mean, we're sitting next to a photo of me from the red carpet. I was texting with Roger almost since the beginning, showing him options for my suit for the red carpet. And Roger was like, oh, I like this, I like that, try this. And you talk about great teams. Roger costuming the entire audience was one of those moments where you're like, this is different.
Yeah.
This is, no matter what, it's fun. That's something you don't get to do very often.
Well, that's a bold move too, to be like, hey, we're going to make the audience is going to be, we're so creating a scene and an environment that we're all in this environment. You're not watching it, you're part of it.
Yeah.
And it came across, we just watched one of the Emmy screeners.
Yeah.
It came across so well. It was great to see it live. And I've been to, tons of your live shows, but it was great to see the filming live, but then to see how it translated on the screen was just was that, because you just saw, we're a couple days out from you going to the screening and seeing this on a big screen in a movie theater. What would talk to me about that night? What was that night like when you go and you see an idea that you and Ryan came up with as a Netflix show at a Hollywood movie premiere?
There's two parts to that question for me, because one is finally getting to see the show as a television show.
Right.
So Ryan and I got a chance. We'd kind of held off. We've seen bits and pieces of our show.
Yeah.
We'd never seen one of the full show's final cuts. And as we were approaching both the premiere and then the release, we kind of decided no matter what, let's just wait until it's out. Wait until we actually see them. Like, we got our hands on one of these Emmy screeners, which has 4 out of the 6 episodes.
Right.
But we were like, we're not going to watch it. Sunday night, the night before the premiere, Ryan comes over, and we decided it was one of those, you would love this. It was one of those give a mouse a cookie moments.
Yeah.
Let's just watch the opening title sequence.
Yeah.
Well, let's watch just the first joke. Basically, what we had decided was we were going to watch the Abe Lincoln episode up until the very first roaster, Natasha Leggero as Mary Todd Lincoln came out. And so we sat down, we put the disc in, and we watched that opening cut where Ryan and I are right in the front row, and Jeff is got the accent on, and then the title sequence, which I am in love with that title sequence. The way it introduces people underneath the photo of the person that they're playing, so you get to see both versions right away. It was the moment that that Bob Saget as Abe Lincoln goes, "Here's some pennies."
It's such a funny opening line for him.
And I was like, oh my God, we have a TV show.
Yeah.
I think that the show looks fantastic. I think it plays wonderfully. And in speaking to finally seeing a full cut on Monday, I was like, oh God, this is really, like, they did a great job stitching together what was over an hour's worth of shot material into under 30 minutes, getting the narrative told
seamlessly too. I mean, it
getting
doesn't,
jokes in there.
Anyone who watches it, anyone who watches it will go, "Oh, that was they just did it just like that,"
And knowing the effort that went in, I think that, and I don't have to resist much of the urge to want to dissect or edit later. It's very easy to sit there. Even now, this is today was my 3rd time watching the Abe Lincoln episode in full. There's things I want to change. There's moments that I'm like, I know that that's not how that joke was written, and if we hit the delivery differently, I was at this point, I'm like, that's unnecessary for me to wade into. I don't need to stand in those waters at all. I am so happy with how this television show came out. It is, I think, one of the absolute best versions and expressions of what we could and would have done when we get to this place.
Yeah.
The experience of seeing it on a movie screen was one of the single most surreal and special moments in my life. Going in and coming out of it, I was very aware the likelihood of ever seeing our television show on a movie screen again is low. If we do another premiere for season 2 or 3 or 5 or 7, certainly that would be there. But from now on, it lives on a TV screen.
Right.
Viewing it in that format will almost never happen. And in that room was literally everyone who's ever worked on it.
Wow.
Cast, crew, friends from the live show, family. My father came out. My father twice now has rescheduled trips he's been on. One to come to the Muhammad Ali taping. He changed his European business travel. And in this version, they were in Chicago, or he was going to Chicago. He was going somewhere for a wedding of a cousin, I think. Rerouted him and my stepmom to be there at the premiere on Monday. So awesome. Family, friends. Part of this journey is also going to go back to the fact that my grandmother is a Holocaust survivor.
Right.
She passed away a few years ago, happy, comfortable in her own home on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, having lived a very happy and full life. One of my goals was to have gotten my face on a movie screen for my grandmother to see before she passed, for that ultimate feeling of victory, for lack of a better term, of like, you survived, you struggled, you got through what you did, so I would have the opportunity not just to chase the dream, but I lived it out.
Yeah.
And on Monday night, my face appeared on that movie screen as that featured extra on the Abe Lincoln episode. And I didn't know this until I was sitting in that theater watching. I sneak a line into the show that makes it into the final cut. And sure enough, I'm sitting next to Ryan. When that happens, I lean over. I'm like, dude, I got one line. And that sentimental moment, that was That was real.
Yeah.
That was very real. That night, you know better than anybody that everybody who I've ever worked with on a live show gets a handwritten thank you note.
Yeah.
On November 2nd, 2018, we taped the episode of Abraham Lincoln, historical roast. I knew I was a featured extra as a Confederate soldier, and I wrote myself a thank you note that night.
What did it say?
I only here will I read it. Only on this podcast. Nowhere else would I ever read this. The idea to me was that I had to take a moment to recognize the work that I had put in to getting here. And the idea that if I wanted to appear on a movie screen or in a TV show, if I wanted to make my own way, I was going to have to be the one who did the work. It was up to me to make it happen. And in that moment, I was very conscious to just say, recognize yourself. Like, you're the one who did this. There's, again, hundreds of people make it possible.
Right.
But only because I got up and did this did I put myself in the position. Eddie, thank you for doing everything you did to make tonight possible. After years of hard work, sacrifice, heartache, and joy, you will make an appearance on your own Netflix show. You should be infinitely proud of yourself. I hope you have a great time and look forward to working with you again. I love you. Thank you, Eddie.
That's so good, man.
It's now sealed. I have not opened my own thank you note, but it's sealed with the rest of the memorabilia that I have from the tapings. And so then now that note needs to be amended, and is, you wanted to get your face on a movie screen. You tricked the industry into putting your face on a movie screen in the middle of Hollywood for your own red carpet premiere event with, I mean, not even to get name droppy, but there were legitimate stars who showed up to watch the show who were not even in it. Yeah. Like Sarah Silverman was there. Blake Griffin and Chandler Parsons were there. Like, just insane, where you're looking around like, this is pretty fucking cool. Yeah. This is pretty fucking cool.
Well, dude, I'm so glad that you took the time to write that note to yourself. I think that there's those moments where you have to check in with yourself, and maybe it's checking in with yourself when you were a kid. Maybe it's checking in with yourself when you were, 28, 29, when you finally decided I'm going to move to LA or whatever, however old you were at the time, and to go, okay, I just want to take a moment and I want to talk to 30-year-old Eddie, who was in LA, barely making it, barely surviving, like not at all living anything close to glamorous Hollywood life.
One guy in a 1-bedroom apartment with 7 other guys and bed bugs on an air mattress with no money. At 30 years old, mind you. A time when I felt it was way too late in the game to try to do this, both for me and for the industry. I don't want to. I know that there are a lot of people who struggle with this, and I don't want to make it sound like my plight is any better or worse. But I'll tell you right now, there's nobody in this industry who's begging for a 35-year-old white guy who's bald with gray hair in his beard. They're not beating down my door. Yeah, I am very fortunate to get to work in this business, and I will sacrifice and work as hard as I can, and I think I do bring a lot to the table. Yeah, but it's not like they needed me; I needed them. Yeah, and nobody. Even now, I recognize, like, now I'm 35, and age notwithstanding, it's just a matter of, like, I'm not some hot commodity that everybody needs. I am going to have to continuously work, not to prove myself, but to contribute back to create that space. Yeah. So this is, to me, this idea, if I'm talking historical roast and red carpets and movies and this and that, I am going to continue to have to work to create the space for me to get there. I got a chance to appear on my own show on a movie screen because I tirelessly worked to create that space and endeared myself enough to the community that they would support it. Yeah. And that, to me, has always been the most valuable. I've said this 1,000 times, and I'll continue to say it. The support from the comedy community has meant more than actually getting the show. Yeah. The love from other comedians and the people at the Comedy Store and everywhere has been... I would rather have that than a television show. Well,
but it's not... And I love your humility to say it's other people, and it is... a community, but you cared for these people all along the way. And you, Eddie, have always stood out to me as someone in this industry who gets that it's people first. It's people ahead of projects. And that is so rare. I remember when we were doing our show in the back of Nerd Melt, and the very first time we did it, and you showed up with handwritten cards for everybody, and you said, we're buying pizza and we're buying Jameson, and we're going to celebrate the people that are coming out. And that is unheard of in, comedy. Like, people don't take care of comics like that and guests. Like, they don't treat them like you from day one. Every show you've done, you have been welcoming people into your home, and you have been being a great host and caring for them. And that is why today you're getting texts from people going, "Hey, I got the Emmy screener." That is why today you have friends that are showing up to your Netflix special. It's because you've done it differently. And it's also because you've had a drive that is unprecedented. There are thousands of people that have the story of, I moved to LA and lived in an apartment with 7 other guys and had bed bugs. That is not a unique story.
No.
The unique story is you said, guess what? I'm not leaving, and I'm going to push through, and I'm going to work the day job, and I'm going to grind it out. And then when I get the special, when I get the TV show, I'm going to go write all day. And then the next day I'm going to go back to the day job. Like, it's the non-glamorous crap that has got you to where you're at right now.
If we're in a very honest place right now,
We always are.
I'm still working a day job. This was not.
Let's talk about that moment, because there was, and I mean, you and I talked while it was happening. There was that moment where you went and you wrote and filmed the show, and then went back to working a day job.
Yeah, I took
Having known that you had a Netflix
off.
show coming out.
I took 1 week off because I just needed the decompress time.
Right.
Just a very simple, like, my body and mind. And also, I've been very conscious in the past 2 years, especially. I think if anything, age and maturity and wisdom come into play, where you're like, recognize the moment, sit in it, enjoy where you are at. Like, there's no, you and I have been around long enough to recognize bills are going to come no matter what.
Right.
That cycle will never stop.
Right.
The only time in the world that you'll ever get a break from it is if you just decide you're going to take one anyway.
Yeah.
And you're never going to have enough money in your bank account, and you're never going to have enough time to finish the projects you want. So I took a week off, just being like, I'm not going straight back to work. The same way as I know that externally this sounds crazy at the moment, but like, I took vacation days all next week. So as you're listening to this, I'm not working because I simply said, like, the week the show comes out, and also I have 2 shows this week anyway.
Right.
And I usually take time off around them to work on the show, but what else would I need a week off for? Like, just enjoy it. Like, just take the time, answer the texts, post the photos online, go out to the Comedy Store, and, call your mom and dad and see how they're doing if they've watched it. Just knowing, like, take the moment. But I took a week off, and I was right back at the day job. I took the time off to shoot the show, and then it was like, there's just more work to get done.
Yeah.
There's more shows to book. We had other shows coming up. We had more things to do. I think hard work is always the prerequisite.
Yeah.
I think I'll always compare to athletics because it's where I started, but I also think athletics is a very good example, because you just put in hard work and you get better and you improve what you're doing. And that is such an easy transition. Like we talked about, you want to lose 50 pounds. Right. All you got to do is eat healthy and exercise and keep that consistency up, and you will see the result. And it's much harder, I think, to apply that to all the other things you're doing when it comes to a creative endeavor. Right. As a former personal trainer, I used to tell my clients all the time, one of the best things about exercise is you're going to get out of it exactly what you put into it, no more or less. So for things like a show or a podcast or relationships, most times we feel like we're putting more effort and energy into it than we're getting back.
Right.
But with exercise, it's an even exchange. If you're walking 5 miles every morning, your body is getting the benefit of walking
Yeah.
5 miles every morning, not a step more and not a step less.
Exactly.
You'll never get less return on the work you put in there. So if you just applied that to everything else, if I just said, all right, well, we need costumes. I want them to look as good as possible, but also have an air of kitschiness so that everyone knows this is kind of silly.
Right.
We need people who are going to play characters but tell jokes. We got to have some fun with this. Who's going to fit? Like, what's the poster going to look like? It's all just hard work, and there's always something else to do. In that vein, being closer to 35 has always kept that heat on, because it's like, again, no one's knocking down my door. If I want it, I got to create the space.
Right.
And there's always going to be someone else and something else who is at the open mic when I'm not at the open mic. So
Yeah, well, and people see this. I mean, we're looking right now at picture of you at the red carpet, and
in a great suit.
in a killer suit.
Shout out to Paisley and Gray, the company who makes that suit, who I am definitely talking with about trying to get a sponsorship. I am in talks with them.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing.
check out Paisley and Gray's stuff.
Well, I mean, people will see this, and then they'll see the show, and the danger at this moment, Eddie, is not only are people not. It's not like now you've got a ticket to ride. It's not like now you don't have to work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And the other danger is that this level of success, as it appears, is going to get people to think, "Oh, Eddie doesn't need my help." You know what I'm saying? Like,
Ryan and I found around the time of shooting the show that people who wanted to book us on shows weren't reaching out because they assumed we were too busy.
Right.
And we were like, no, I'm going to say this for anyone listening. I only did this show to get booked on more shows.
Yeah.
If you have a live show where there's 10 people in the audience, I
Yeah.
want to come tell jokes to them. If you
Yeah.
have a web series where you need a bald guy with a beard, I want to play that guy. If
Yeah.
you have a podcast, you want me to, I'm saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
I've done a podcast a week for 2 weeks now. That's the exact reason I came out here.
Right.
But you're right. In the other vein, I have noticed you can't go to the bar and not know that people are going to expect you to pay. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, like, in that, yes, I look at the side of it where I know that it may appear like things are done or we're set for life. That's the idea. If you're on TV or you have a TV show, you're set for life. No, this is my ticket in
Right.
to allow me to now work and continue to, I don't want to use the word prove
Right.
in that way, but to prove that I still deserve the job here, that I'm still a part of it. Like, I have to work just as hard, if not harder now,
Right.
with that access. But now it's like game is on.
Yep.
4.5 years of practice,
Yeah.
a lot of skills and resources learned and gained in those 4.5 years to now get a chance to really work. The next 5 years,
Yeah.
hopefully look very different from the previous 5.
Yeah.
But the workload, I think, only goes up. It now is the time I really kick it into gear and say, okay, well, what else do I have? What else can I do? Where can I position myself?
Yeah.
Who am I going to work with? What project can I get myself attached to? What else can I bring to the table now to get this done again? This is the opposite of coasting time. This is actually when the real thing begins.
I love it, man. I love it, dude. See, and again, because this is the moment where most people would go, well, I did the thing I wanted to do. And you got the hustle, man. Like, you are in the best way a hustler. Like, you put the work in and you're dedicated to it and you love it and you enjoy the process.
I love making something creative.
Yeah.
I love the idea of entertaining people. That will never go away.
Yeah.
The inclination to, now, first and foremost, I'll always say this. I think that I wish everyone in the world could feel the sense of accomplishment and affirmation I feel having turned this kernel of an idea, because I do recognize this was the trippiest part of Monday night.
Yeah.
At the premiere, was sitting there going, this is legitimately the thing that I saw in my head.
Yeah.
That I described to Ryan and then Sammy and then every one of the performers on the show.
Yeah.
And then to AJ Tessler and then to Michael Ratner at OBB and then to Jeff Ross and then to legitimately down to Bob Saget and Gilbert Gottfried.
Right.
And all of a sudden, one day, this thing that I literally saw in my head is now out in the real world in the exact same way I pictured it.
Right.
And I truly wish everybody in the world could feel that kind of a moment because, one, it's only been positive reinforcement.
Right. It just makes you want to do it more.
Why would I not want to do it again?
Right.
The universe has said nothing to me other than, yes, was it hard work? Did it take a lot? Of course. You know the joke. I'll always say it. People ask, what does it take to get a show on Netflix? Costs about 20 grand in 2 relationships.
Yeah, right.
And then I always point out, my current girlfriend loves that joke because she can count. I have changed because of this.
Yeah.
And one of the things is an insane relaxation and comfort.
Really?
Because I did it.
Yeah.
I did the thing we all want to do.
Right.
And I never have to do it again to prove to myself that I could do it.
Right. Now you do it because you want to keep doing it.
Now I do it for the love, because I want to, because I was never going to be done, because the minute they gave me a show, I wanted a season 2 and an Emmy. And the minute they give me those, I'll want something else. The drive 100% is still there. However, the underlying anxiety or concern or worry of could I ever do this kind of a thing? The answer is unequivocally yes. And if I chose, in the same way I choose to keep working, I could choose to walk away from the entertainment business.
Right.
And feel not like I had failed or not like I was defeated or not like I couldn't crack the code. I could walk away and be like, I cracked the code. Now I just want to do something different.
Right.
Now I just want to go have a farm in the middle of nowhere, or I want to be a teacher all of a sudden. I could do that, but inside, I'll never have to answer the question of if I could do it.
Yes, buddy, that's true.
And so that kind of relaxation and comfort of like, oh, good. Like, so for instance, by the way, I've been on the verge of tears 9 times already through this conversation. As a motivator, I held on to a lot of anger. I think that some of it was healthy and a lot of it was unhealthy. But to wake up every day and push that boulder up a hill,
right,
in a way and in a place and in a time where it doesn't always feel like you have the option or the ability. It is a tough road to hoe.
Oh yeah.
Or
it's
so
constantly pushing back against you.
I think anytime I've always looked at changing careers or getting into something like this, like trying to change the course of an ocean liner. Like you have to steer that thing ahead of time. It takes massive amounts of effort to take a left turn to create space within the entertainment industry. It's not impossible, but it takes a lot of work. And the motivators to get there, for me, I used a lot of anger, a lot of, well, I'll show this person, I'll show that person. I believed that my hometown of Stamford, Connecticut wasn't good to me, and I needed to show them. The truth is, nobody's done anything but root for me.
Right.
Everyone has been loving and supportive. But for me, I needed that thing inside of me, almost that Michael Jordan-esque anger of like, I'm going to show them. I always looked at him and I saw him at his retirement or as his Hall of Fame speech. And Jordan was still so angry. He didn't let go of the guy who got the spot on the varsity team ahead of him.
Wow. But
coming away from this, I recognized like, oh God, you can let go of the anger now. It served its purpose, which was to keep you going when it was almost illogical to keep going.
Right.
It didn't make sense to continue to do the things I did.
And there's been, I mean, how many times did you and I talk on the phone during this process? And there were days where it was like I'd get the call from Eddie of, this happened today. You're not going to believe who walked in the writing room. You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe that. And then there was those days where it was like, Eddie, if it's okay for me to share, going, I can't believe, like, we thought this was going to happen and now it's not. Or we were told this and now we were told that. Or
there was
like people think that it's just this progression of steady going uphill and everything's going great. But it literally is like, oh, Jeff Ross is on board. Now we don't know if it's happening. Now, you know what I mean? Like it's literally like that.
I had a huge emotional breakdown the week before we shot the show. We'd been in pre-production about 8 weeks or so, somewhere between 8 and 10 weeks.
Yep.
Now, this is, I will absolutely say, everyone we worked with, Jeff Ross, Michael Ratner at OBB, everyone, Frank Sebastiano, our head writer, everybody involved is and was phenomenal. This is not a comment on anybody else and their involvement or inclusion of us, because we've been included since day one. I helped make this show. And in this business, the truth is nobody owed me that.
Right.
They optioned a live show to turn into a TV show. They could have said, we'll see you in May, and never brought me in to do anything else. And they had that right and that option.
Yeah.
On the other side, they brought me in every day. They've made sure this show was what we had done. Jeff especially. Jeff Ross is an amazing human being as well as producer and talent.
Yeah.
Like, if you think he's funny and good at making TV shows, he's even better as a human being when
That's
you're just
so
working
good,
with him. The week before the show, before we shot the show. So this is the last week of writing.
Okay. Right
before we're going to tape the first 3 episodes the following week, Halloween of 2018.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the emotional breakdown was, one, the recognition that the ride was almost over. Because the experience of making the show is actually making the show. It's writing every day. It's the possibilities. It's the casting.
Right.
And my body knew, starting next week, we're just shooting them. And 2 weeks after that Monday of right before the shooting, we were going to be completely done.
Right.
So all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I only have 2 or 3 weeks left of this and that's it? Oh my God, that's nothing. But there were also things that I wanted for and from the show that it became apparent we weren't going to get.
Yeah.
Of course, I want a larger role on screen than we wound up with.
Right.
Of course, I would want the opportunity to have shaped it in my vision slightly more, even though the truth is the show you see on TV is 90 to 95% what I would have made anyway.
Right.
The last 5%, I'm like, I would have put this here, I would have put that there. Like, there are some jokes or some themes or some ideas that I would have changed.
Right.
But you bring other people like Jeff Ross and Michael Ratner in to collaborate because you get an even better idea than you might have had, or they bring along something that you couldn't bring to the table, and that is far more valuable.
Right.
But I legitimately, to the point where the Friday right before we shot on Monday, I left the writer's room about 3 hours before they stopped writing. I just left with Ryan because I was just done. I was done completely. And it wasn't like I stormed out, and it wasn't a protest. I did something I never thought I would do, which was miss time they were writing the show.
Right.
And I realized that what the breakdown was really about, what the tears and the anxiety were really about, is that I had all of a sudden made the show about me. Everything I was saying was, I wanted more time on screen. I wanted to be a bigger producer. And I was like, you've never once done this show for you.
Right.
You do it for the audience.
Wow.
You work as a producer for the talent and the people involved. You've never once done the show for you. And now all of a sudden you're questioning what you did or didn't get. Let that go. This was never about you.
Right.
And you go back, what's my ultimate goal? And did everything that happened serve that ultimate goal? Yeah, it did. Everything is fine. But I had a real, legitimate, I had to call, this one's funny, I had to call Josh Adam Myers, who's the creator of the goddamn Comedy Jam, which is the show where comedians get to be rock stars and sing on stage. And he had an experience with Comedy Central when they produced his show for Comedy Central, which left him feeling a little bit awkward. His business can do that.
Right.
I've never sat on the phone with him. I had to call him up, and he left me the voicemail that I needed to hear, which was 90% of the people who want to do this never get this close. You did it.
Yeah.
It's yours. You can never take that away. Enjoy life. God, you'd think that'd be an easy message in these times, but the amount of times myself and other people have to stop and recognize and say, enjoy what's going on.
Right.
Is uncanny.
Yep.
And that's real. There are real stressors that come along with this, but coming out of it, the relaxation, the ability to let go of the anger that I knew I was only holding on to get me to this place, the ability to stop and go all right, now you can be comfortable. You really did do it. Now when somebody introduces you and says, and he's got this show, you can just hold your head with the same pride of now you really do know what we're talking about.
Right.
This is This is as good as I always knew it was. From the moment I thought of it, I knew this is exactly what this show could and would be.
See, it's such encouragement, man, for friends who are listening right now who they've got a dream and they've got a passion and they know, I'm not talking about like you want or you think. I'm talking about the handful of us that know that the thing that is in your head is the reality that will exist in the world, and you're going to be willing to put the work in to do it. It's an encouragement that when other people don't see that, it's okay. As long as you see it and you keep pushing through and you stay true to it, like it can come to a reality. You know, we started talking at the beginning of this about like manifestation and all of that. And like, I laugh because as we're talking, so many things that you have said in this conversation, you said to me before they were actual things. And so I'm just, as we kind of come like toward, you know, we're kind of nearing the end of our time right now. I would love to ask Eddie Furth right now in 2019, what is next that you see or that you want to, you know, speak into existence? Not to put you on the spot, but like,
I know you know me. You know I have the answer.
That's why. I wouldn't ask most people this.
You know, I have the answer.
That's what I want to hear.
And the more experience I have, the more I've recognized to be very specific with your manifestations.
Right.
Meaning that, for instance, if your goal is to get a TV show, make sure in your manifestation you say how much you wanted to earn on that TV show. Like every little detail you can write down.
Right.
Not because for both reasons. One, and I've said this, when it comes to manifestation, especially in this business, we all have very specific but very different goals, and you're never sure what someone's actual goal is. Like I sat in a podcast talking about this, and I used this example. I was like, I don't know whether you guys want to be directors on a movie set or actors in a TV show, or you want to tour your podcast like My Favorite Murder. So if you don't say it to people, no one in this industry is going to know what it is you're working towards to help you along that path. If I wanted to release a rock and roll album, but I never said it, no one would ever know. So how on earth are they going to help me get there or encourage that?
Yeah, and it's important to speak it because there are so many people that are willing to help. I was in a group last week, and it was we were all kind of sharing like our dreams and where we want to head and all of this, and we are talking about the things that are holding us back. And this lady stood up and was like, I've written this blog and I want to turn it into a podcast, but I just don't know how to get started. And 4 of us stood up and said, we could help you start this today. It was like just instantly like that. Another guy was like, I want to start this business, but I can't, I'm holding on this job that's like wrecking my family and it's destroying my life, but it's like, it's consistent money. So I know I'd be successful. I jump on. This dude stands up and goes, if you quit your job today, I will support your family for the first month. And it's like, if you don't ever say what you want, how does anybody else know how to help you along in it?
It's so important.
Yeah.
I'll finish with another story before I tell you exactly what I want next.
Okay, do it.
Every year before the season started, when reporters would ask, Patrick Ewing would guarantee that this was the year the Knicks were going to win the championship.
Yeah.
And every year before the season started, he made the same guarantee year in and year out. Guarantee that they were winning the championship.
Yeah.
Until finally one year, a reporter spoke up and said, Patrick, you guarantee this every year, and you've never won the championship.
Yeah.
Why do you keep saying you guarantee that? What makes you think that this is the year? And Patrick Ewing said, if I didn't believe we were the best team on the court and that we were going to win the championship, why would I ever play the game?
Wow, that's huge, man.
And that strikes me as, oh my God, if I don't believe in my show, why is anyone else supposed to believe in my show? So when we started the conversations and I was like, I think this is a Netflix show, if there's anyone in the world who believes it should be that thing, it should be me if I'm the only one.
Right.
So the belief had to start with me. So in anything that I say next, I fully believe it and feel it, because if there's anybody who should believe in this stupid thing, this show about making fun of dead people, it should be me.
Right.
And I'll be very open, frank, and honest with everything I'm saying, because I also believe in that kind of specificity.
Yeah.
First off, This show is going to win Outstanding Variety Sketch Series at the Emmys this year.
Boom. September
22nd of this year are the Emmys. We walk away with the championship.
Yeah.
We will win. We will win Outstanding Variety Sketch Series this year. I think we are also. We are also going to take home Emmys in other categories. I think we are the best costumed show on television, and I think there is no better original song on TV this year than the Freddie Mercury song that Avery Pearson wrote for James Adomian to sing. And I think those 3 trophies are ours this year.
Boom.
Despite all of the difficulty in getting to that place, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
Because over the next several years, I'd like to win several championships.
Yeah.
I would like to take those awards home multiple times for our writing staff, for our production design, for everybody on our staff who has earned the right to stand and say, I did the best work on television this year, or get recognized. We don't even have to say best, but for truly turning in an effort that is phenomenal.
Right.
We're going to win several Outstanding Variety Sketch and original songs and supporting roles, and Jeff Ross as the lead in this deserves and earned the opportunity. So I want to win trophies this year and for years to come.
Boom.
I want season 2. Season 2 will get picked up this year, and we'll go into production. We'll go into production August, September, October for season 2 for 13 episodes for Netflix.
Boom.
This show will go 5 to 7 seasons.
Rad.
Especially for Netflix, that's a bit of a reach, but I believe in the runaway success that this thing will be. As we watched, this show is a comedy show at its core.
Yeah.
But it's also not just a comedy show.
No,
we are going to teach you some things. But beyond just teaching you things, because it's easy to say it's history, so it's teaching.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you a story.
Yeah.
Which was a big debate when it came to our Anne Frank episode this year. A lot of people were sensitive to the idea of calling it an Anne Frank roast, because how are you going to roast Anne Frank? And they wanted to call it the roast of World War II. Mm-hmm. And my biggest pushback was, but we did not write the story of World War II. We wrote the story of Anne Frank.
Right.
And when you see that episode, what you're going to see is an episode where we tell the story of a victim. Of somebody who was circumstanced to what other people were doing. And the perpetrators of that war never had to pay the full price. So FDR and Hitler, and even on that set, God is called to task because Anne Frank was killed over something she had absolutely nothing to do with and made no decisions of. And the ones who did make those decisions don't face it. Wow. So the story you're going to get from our show is unlike any other comedy show you're going to see on television this year. I am also very excited because we're going to sell fictional roast somewhere. It's instead of historical figures, it's fictional characters. And I believe that by the time this year is out, we're going to have a pretty good sense on where that's going to wind up and when we're going to be able to go into production on that. And I think when the story of what did they do with historical roast and fictional roast is written, I've always said it was 7 seasons of historical roast and 4 seasons of fictional roast. And then we would put these things to bed and I would move on to whatever the next project is. And that's what I see for this year and next year and the year after. I'm ready to take this show, Historical Roast, on tour around the country and around the world.
Yeah, buddy.
I've never been to the UK. I would love to take this to London and Dublin and Scotland. I would love to take it to Canada. I'd love to take it to Australia. I'd love to take the show all across the United States and see things I've never seen and be able to roast historical figures with friends and new comedians all over the country. So that's what I want to see this year and next year and the year after. I want to get into the main room at the Comedy Store with our show on the biggest stage that they have. And then I want that I see that leading to a lot of the things that I want as a performer. I want to start the process of earning the opportunity to have my name written on that wall.
That's right, buddy.
At the Comedy Store. And whatever opportunities as a producer and performer will come from this.
Dude, I'm smiling right now. People can't see. I've been smiling at you a lot today. Because I already
It's a good weekend. It's a good weekend.
It is a good weekend, man. And it is the accumulation of so many conversations and hard talks that you and I have had. And what I love is as you're talking this way, I don't doubt any of the things you just said, I don't doubt that they're all going to happen. Every single one of them is going to happen. And you and I will sit down a year from now or 6 months from now, and we'll go, look at this, buddy.
I mean, we're gonna sit down on September 24th.
I mean,
2 days after the Emmys, I will place a statue on this table.
That's what
right
we'll do.
in front of you.
We'll do it,
and we'll do an episode talking about that and about what
I'm gonna
that
put
kind of experience.
I'm
is
gonna
like.
put it on my calendar right now.
Yeah, I got nothing going on the 24th.
Well, yeah, you do. We're gonna sit right here.
There we go.
Dude, this has been amazing, man. I know you and I could easily talk for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
But both of our ladies are sitting in the house right now waiting for us to take them to sushi.
Yeah.
So we're going to go do that. We'll keep talking.
And because I have a Netflix show, I guess I'm expected to pay for the whole thing. That's how that one works. folks.
I was not going to say that, but you know, what better
Let's
way
see
to
what the bill
celebrate?
is. Maybe we'll split. I don't know. Maybe we'll split it.
Let's just split it, buddy. Let's just split it. Anything you want to leave people with? Anything you want them to do? I mean, probably want them to go watch the show, right?
3 things.
Do it.
Absolutely. Go watch historical roasts on Netflix. I think there's something for everyone in that show.
Oh, absolutely.
I think you're going to take away a moment of joy. A lot of people are going to discuss and debate the idea of this show being quote unquote too soon or too edgy.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, Ryan and I have always impressed upon people, this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
At the core of it, there's a silliness to our show. Yeah, we're going to make fun of some things that you may hold dear in life,
right,
or some things that seem sacred, but at the end of it is all for fun.
Yeah.
On the other side of it, we want you to understand this stuff in a different context and maybe learn something, maybe think about something a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But go check out Historical Roasts on Netflix. 6 episodes right now. Abraham Lincoln, Freddie Mercury, Anne Frank, Martin Luther King Jr., Cleopatra, and Muhammad Ali. Incredible cast, incredible crew, some of my favorite people in the world. So check that out on Netflix right now. We are at the Comedy Store tonight, May 29th at 10:30 p.m. in the Belly Room, roasting Mother Teresa with an incredible cast and crew, insane characters. I'm so excited for that one. We are at Dynasty Typewriter this Sunday, June 2nd at 7 p.m., roasting Pixar.
Yeah.
All of your favorite Pixar characters just in time right before Toy Story 4 is released. Follow us online at Historical Roast, at Fictional Roast, at I Am Eddie Furth. But most importantly, whatever in the world would make you the happiest right now, unequivocally, don't think twice about it. Go chase it. Because even if you do not get a chance to do it, the pursuit of it alone will make you feel that much better and is worth the journey. You never want to walk away saying, what if?
Right.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Do it. It does not matter. It will not look exactly like you think it was going to look. There will be a lot of different challenges along the way. They are all just challenges to get around.
Yep.
It's just a detour on the route, but go do it. Just find whatever that thing would be and go for it. Go make yourself this happy.
It's so good, man. It's so good. I love it, dude.
Go make something.
You know what we're going to do right now, Eddie?
Gonna go eat sushi.
We're going to go make some sushi disappear.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you for having me,
dude. Thanks for... this is going to happen again. We're going to record in September.
September 24th,
and everyone
2019.
will be like, holy crap. It all happened.
There's some hardware on the table.
Yeah.
As we speak.
Yep. Friends, go out. Make something beautiful. Love the people you're with. Thanks for taking the time.